Halloween from Salem.
So we're entering here at Schorr Manor the holiday season that I refer to as Halloween's epilogue. You know, if there really is a war on Christmas, then I just gotta say Christmas is winning. It swallowed up Thanksgiving. It's encroaching on the store shelves like the first or second week of October. So yeah, gotta find some way to fight back against Kris Kringle and his crew. Anyway, bit of exciting news is that we are now officially an award-winning home haunt. So to give some background on that particular story, our neighborhood, for the first time in several years since we've moved here, in fact, decided to have a neighborhood-wide contest to see who could decorate the biggest and best for the Halloween holiday. And Amanda and I won. That was exciting for us. And there must have been at least 200 people that went through our neighborhood. Now we're a little bit tucked away on the side. We're not really on the main thoroughfare, so we didn't get all of that traffic, but we got a big percentage of it. And everybody that came through had a great time. Got a lot of cool comments, and we had a great time welcoming them into our yard. I remember one kid, I think he was 10 or 12. He was a little bit old, but he was terrified of our lawn. And I held my hand out, which was decked out in all kinds of cyborg gear, thinking that this would only make it worse. I said, "Would you like me to hold your hand?" And he just gleefully, yes, please, please. And so this kid who I swear was just a few days shy of being a teenager, I had to escort him up our lawn to get the candy because he was just too intimidated by all the stuff that we had. We had a creepy clown dancing around one of our windows through a projector, and anytime somebody asked about it, whether it was real or not, I would always just say, look, don't worry about it. He hasn't gotten out since yesterday, and they can't prove that the kid that disappeared was because of him. So it was a great Halloween, and it was doubly cool to actually win an award. So we can officially claim that Schorr Manor is an award-winning Halloween home haunt. One other exciting thing is that toward the end of October, we went on our family vacation to, and this really shouldn't be a huge surprise to anybody, which city, USA? Salem, Massachusetts. The initial plan for the year was actually to go to Disney. But with all of the COVID things happening while we were planning, that just didn't seem very safe. Florida was ground zero for COVID at the time. And to top it all off, Disney is in spite of all the protections they had in place, it's just this massive ground where people would just be shoulder to shoulder everywhere you looked. And it just seemed like at the time, it wasn't the best idea. So we made changes and thought, okay, if we don't go to that most magical place on earth, we'll go to the other most magical place on earth, which was Salem, Massachusetts. We've been there before, and we were very excited to go back there again. And we returned to see historical sites like the Burying Point, the Witch House, and we even met a few witches while we were there. So that was fun. Now, for those who don't know, I will give you a very gross simplification of the history of Salem, Massachusetts. It is most well known for the Salem witch trials. They took place over the course of several years, but just for simplicity's sake here, I'm just going to say it was around the year 1692. In total, more than 200 people were accused. 30 of those were found guilty, and 20 of them were summarily executed. Most of them were women. A few of them were men. One of them was a guy named Giles Corey, and he's probably the most famous one out of that number. Everybody but Giles Corey was hung. But Corey, they had a slightly worse fate for him, probably one of the most brutal forms of execution I've heard of. He was, the official term, pressed to death. And what that means is he was laid out on the ground under a board, and they just started adding heavy rocks to him until it was finally too much. And as they were doing it, Giles Corey's answer, anytime they would ask him to confess, they would add more weight to him, and they would ask him, "Do you confess? Do you confess?" And all he would ever say, more weight. And to put this in perspective, this guy was over 80 years old. He was known as an ornery old cuss, and it sounds like he kept that reputation to the end. Hard not to respect that. And part of what makes that stand out is Giles Corey is a reason we wanted to visit one of the places that we did. Now, supposedly, the ghost of Giles Corey haunts the grounds of Howard Street Cemetery, the second oldest cemetery in Salem, I believe. Now, according to legend, if you happen to see Giles Corey while you're in this cemetery, there's going to be some kind of disaster that's going to happen sometime soon. And there are accounts that people claim to have seen Giles Corey on those cemetery grounds, and then shortly afterward there was some kind of disaster. One of the most famous ones is a major fire in the city of Salem in the early 20th century, and supposedly somebody saw Giles Corey in the days before that. But when we went there previously, to Salem that is, we visited several places, and we never got to see the Howard Street Cemetery while we were there. So that was the top of our list. So Amanda and I, we put the kids in a stroller. Yeah, we took our kids with us, and we went onto the grounds of Howard Street Cemetery and checked around the place and looked at it. And the grounds, the cemeteries are always so fascinating because just of how old they are. I mean, you have headstones for people that died before the 1700s. I mean, these headstones are older than our country. So it's a fascinating place, and it just, the history that's there, it's, I don't know, you just feel it in your bones when you walk through places like that. Now, if you're wondering, we never saw Giles Corey, which is just as well, because the other part of that legend goes that if Giles Corey speaks to you, then that means that you are going to die. So, good thing, I guess. We didn't see him, we didn't hear from him, so shouldn't be any tragedies happening, at least not on our watch. Of course, something else that's kind of exciting for us going to Salem was the chance to visit a bunch of the shooting locations for the movie Hocus Pocus. With the big announcement that they're doing a sequel now, it just meant that much more to us to go revisit this film from our childhood. Amanda and I both love this movie, and this year, our kids actually discovered it, and they seem to love it just as much as we do. So it was really exciting for us to go check these places out. Of course, we checked out the original home of Max and Danny. Got to go see the Dennison home. That was fun. Then from there, we also got to go check out Allison's house, which is in fact a museum there in Salem known as Rope's Mansion. So it's a beautiful building, that is for sure. It wasn't open, but a lovely place nonetheless. And we also went to go check out the burial hill in Marblehead, which happens to be where Max lost both of his shoes to the two bullies, Jay and Ice. The first time we went, Amanda and I actually had the chance to tool around that cemetery to try to guess where certain parts of that sequence were probably filmed. This time around, we had two kids who were trying to keep up with, and we weren't quite able to do it. Last but not least, we paid a visit to the 1693 home of Thackeray Binks, the famous cat who helped stop the Sanderson sisters. It's the Pioneer Village. It's a living history museum, and it's a tribute to colonial time. It shows what it was like living in those days in Salem. But for the movie Hocus Pocus, it was refitted a little bit, not much, to serve as the home village that had Thackeray and his ill-fated sister Emily just before she was taken by the witches. So we got to go check that place out, and that was really cool as well. So there you go. October was a great month. We had a great time in Salem. Halloween was awesome, and we won an award for our decorations, so that was fantastic. Now it's time for the holiday season, so everybody just, be thankful, of course, because that's the first one that comes around. Don't let Santa Claus take that holiday away from us. Be thankful, be safe, take care of one another, stay spooky, and above all else, happy haunting.
Press the hose and bend the back. Trim her. Yeah!